Bishop to do the invocation, and will Supervisor Johnson please lead us in the pledge?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here today. May everything we do begin with your inspiration and continue with your help. We ask your guidance throughout this meeting, that all of our thoughts and actions would reflect your will. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion to call for an executive session to be held on February 4th at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion and action to approve waiving the reading in full of items presented for discussion, adoption, or approval at this meeting. I need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, official business to come before this board. Discussion of pending or contemplated litigation claims and demands. Mr. Eisblin.
Nothing to present to the board, thank you.
Okay. We have now committee and our legislative reports. I'll start to my right with Supervisor Watson.
This morning, nothing. Next week?
Nothing.
In
Okay.
2 weeks, quite a bit. Thank you.
Oh, okay. We'll look forward to that. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you. Let me turn my mic on. Thank you, Madam Chairman. First off, I want to give a praise to Public Works and specifically the Yucca area road grading crew. Butch Cassidy and Alamo Road both look a whole lot better than they did a couple of months ago, so thanks a lot for your hard work. I also attended the Sanctity of Life event on Sunday night in Bullhead City. It was a good event. It was put on by the Way Church and Pastor Roy Hagemeyer. The keynote speaker was Dr. James Dobson's son, Ryan Dobson, who was actually adopted, which keyed in well with a Right to Life event. I also attended the Workforce Development Board meeting last week in Bullhead City at MCC. Most of the discussion there was in regards to the end of Goodwill's contract as the operator of the one-stop center. And I'm starting to get a handle on what the Workforce Development Board does. But thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Supervisor Bishop.
Oh, thank you. I went to Phoenix a couple times last week. I attended the State of the State address by the governor, chaired the Medium County Caucus, and then also attended the following County Supervisors Association meeting. And then, of course, I attended various community meetings where I swore in their January 2019, their officers for the year.
Okay, very good. Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay, and I was down in Phoenix last week as a guest of Representative Regina Cobb for the Governor's State of the State. That was an honor and very interesting to be there. The governor has set forth his vision for the budget for this year, and we'll be talking about it, I'm sure, in weeks and months ahead. But what I wanted to tell everybody today is that I'm going to sort of read from a press release so I don't get anything wrong, but the governor's office announces budget briefings throughout Arizona. Arizonans welcome to attend in person or online through an interactive live stream. So Governor Ducey's executive budget for fiscal year 2020 will be released online on Friday, January 18th, 2019 at 2 p.m. Matt Gress, Director of the Governor's Office of Strategic Planning and Budgeting, will brief members of the public to share information on the newly released budget. And if you can't make that, Mr. Gress is going to be here. They're also going to be holding briefings across Arizona for members of the public to hear details. So if you want to be here in person and ask questions of the governor's staff, the meeting will be right here in this auditorium on February 1st at 3:30 p.m. Hopefully we can put it up on our website, and we'll put it up on Facebook, and I hope to see a lot of people there. So that's all I have. Do we have a county administrator's report?
I have no report today, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
I need a motion to approve the December 3rd, 2018 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes.
So moved.
We have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, before I talk about the call of public, I want everyone to know that at 10 a.m. sharp, I'm going to be stopping the meeting, throwing it over to our county manager to do a public auction that we had set for this morning at 10 a.m. for land. Okay, so here's the call to public. I'm opening it up. Those wishing to address the board at the call to public regarding matters not on the board agenda must fill out and submit to the clerk a call to the public request to speak form located in the back of the room prior to the meeting. Pursuant to ARS 38431, a public body may make an open call to the public during a public meeting, subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to allow individuals to address the public body on any issue within the jurisdiction of the public body. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members of the public body may respond to criticisms made by those who have addressed the public body, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the public body shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. I don't have anyone signed up, but I'll open it up if anybody wants to speak. Anyone? Okay, then I will close the call to public and we will move on. The consent agenda, items 5 through 34, will be considered as a group. No. Before that, we have a presentation, correct? Okay. This morning we have a presentation, the Kingman Water Sustainability Committee report and presentation. We have our old friend Nick Hunt here.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors, and Manager. I really appreciate the opportunity to give you an update on the Water Sustainability Committee. As you know, this committee was formed by resolution by the Kingman City Council, and then the Board of Supervisors approved cooperating with it. And so we're working together with the city. Okay, thank you. The purpose of this committee is to enhance cooperation between the staff members of Mojave County and the city of Kingman, basically. And it is a working committee. So we have working meetings, and we address the sustainability and resilience of the Wallapai Aquifer at this time, but it could be expanded to other areas. And we also, when we create projects, we look at potential resource sharing and potential funding sources together. So I'll start out with the presentation, and I will turn it over to the City of Kingman representative to talk about their projects. So I mainly want to talk about projects and what we're doing. So but to start out, I just, you heard this before, but I want to make an introduction on the Wallapai Aquifer. This map shows the basic groundwater basins in Mojave County, except for the Big Sandy. And as you can see on the upper northeast portion of the map is the Wallapai groundwater basin. And it can be divided into 3 sub-basins, actually. The northern part is the Greg's sub-basin. In the middle, where you see the orange colors, that's the Wallapai sub-basin, and south is the Kingman sub-basin. And other reason I put this map up, so you can see we're working mainly in the Kingman sub-basin, because City of Kingman is the biggest water user. And people ask me that question. It's a very good question. Why do you think when you recharge anything that it goes back to this Kingman well field? So as you can see, the Kingman sub-basin is surrounded by mountains and hills. In the southeast by the Wallapai Mountains, on the east, northeast by the Peacock Mountains, and on the west by the Sorbet Hills. And the Wallapai Aquifer that aquifer that contains the water, that actually flows. It flows towards the northwest. So it's a very slow flow, of course. It's not like surface flow because it flows within the soil structure, but it has a gradient to it and it flows that way, except the Kingman subbasin. And the Kingman subbasin, so you would think that it flows away, but it actually, the Kingman subbasin created a cone of depression because of the wells, because of the Kingman well field. They produce day and night. So it produced the depression, and then the water in the Kingman subbasin pretty much flows towards the Kingman well field. So whatever we recharge right now, based on the condition that we see right now, should end up in the Kingman subbasin. So I just wanted to point this out up front. This is the problem that we have, and I talked about this before, and I only have government data here. It's no speculations or I don't even use data that we heard from developers here in this boardroom, but the United States Geological Survey in 2011 established a water budget. The water budget is that how much water comes in and how much goes out of the aquifer. And back in 2011, the Wallapai aquifer was in deficit. So basically, water that was pumped out was 15,500 acre feet, and what a recharge was about 9,900. So that created a deficit of 5,600 acre feet. So at that time, 2011, nobody was really worried because that's a finite amount of water that we have in the aquifer, but we thought it was going to last like at least 400 years in that rate. However, by 2016, agriculture came in, large agricultural developments, and they pumped a lot more. So again, government data, this is the ADWR, Arizona Department of Water Resources, estimation that the agriculture at 2016 added another 32,000 acre feet discharge. So that added to the deficit. So the deficit in 2016, according to their estimate, was 37,600. Now that's a big number. Now everybody started to worry. So I just wanted to state the problem, and I cite the references there. All the references are available on the Development Services webpage. There's water information, and all the reports are there, all the public reports are there. So that is the problem, and the problem, some say, could be worse because the agricultural landowners, they installed a lot more wells than they actually need, so they could pump a lot more water if they really wanted to. So what are we doing about it? And the first thing was, you remember about 2 years ago, the board approved cooperating with the United States Geological Survey, and the city of Kingman funded half the project. Total cost was about $460,000. So they are in the process of developing a model. It's called the mud flow model, and that's the latest and greatest model. It actually was around in the 80s, but that's the best model that for a big aquifer you can determine what happens time-wise. How much water can we get out of the aquifer? Because that's the question right there. They call it the specific yield. How much water is down there? How much can we get out? And what happens if they pump down one part of the aquifer? What happens on the other? And the time between. And also for mitigation, what happens when we start recharging certain areas? What's going to be the impact at certain well fields? And again, we are right now mainly concerned with the Kingman well field. But what happens in the entire aquifer? So that's what the model will tell us. Once they build the model, then we can plug in different scenarios, and it will calculate it and show it to us. So we're working with the USGS, and we're providing these scenarios for them. And right now, it looks like the project will be completed by the end of next year. I tried to get in contact with them. Right now they are shut down because of the federal government shutdown, so I couldn't talk with them. But before I talked with them, they were very much on schedule. So we're looking forward to that. That's going to answer a lot of questions that a lot of people have questions, and so that's going to be a scientific, straightforward answer. And until then, we can give some answers, but there's a lot of assumptions that go into it, and then not very accurate. So what we're doing at our level, just creating basically engineering projects for enhanced infiltration. And I use that term instead of recharge because down in Phoenix and Tucson, those big recharge projects go through a tremendous permitting process that takes several years. And we don't do that really. We don't manage the groundwater. We just enhance infiltration, provide enhanced infiltration. So capture rainwater that comes down in the washes on those hills that I talked before that surround the Kingman subbasin, and then put it back into the aquifer. So many people ask, why do you need to do that? It goes back anyway. Well, it doesn't. Actually, most of the water doesn't go down at all. So when it rains, it runs down on those washes and then runs out to the flat area and ends up at Red Lake. If you look at the geology close to the foothills, you have conglomerates, that's how we call it, larger rocks and composite of rocks that are very permeable. So there in that area, it recharges. But once it passes that area, it gets into more coarse sand and gravel. It still recharges, but then when it gets down to, say, to the high school around here, when the flat areas, there is nothing that goes down, not a drop. And most people don't believe that, but that's the fact. It's because there's very thick clay layer. And so we try to create projects, and of course the projects, if we capture the water close to the foothills, it's very easy project. Just make a little basin, dig a hole, and then make a little berm and capture a wash, and then it will recharge there. Don't let it run down. Now, once we get down to the flat area, then we need an injection well, and an injection well costs about $1 million a piece, so a large scale. So we try to address the easy projects that are cost-effective right now. That's what the county is doing. And the city of Kingman will talk about, they are actually putting in injection wells, and they're going to recharge their wastewater. And then we can use the same system to recharge others. So I'm going to go through a few projects really quick. Most of the projects that we have here have conceptual design, and some of them have design, some already started construction, but very few are constructed actually. Again, the city is going to do the green hole too, that's going to be a project that goes all the way. But when we have Valley Vista, that's a typical project that we have a detention basin, and if you know Valley Vista, Valley Vista gets flooded from the east, and then the homeowners put up a channel there on the east side of Valley Vista that collects the water, and then it dumps it on the north side. Typically when it rains, it washes out the county road, California Street, and so flood control has to rebuild the road every single time, and then it floods everybody downstream. So from flood control standpoint, it made sense that it was very reasonable when 2 or 3 years ago, I was still with the county. We bought a property there that was at that time on sale, very reasonable, and then made a detention basin and dumped the water in there. So made a crossing on the road so the public works don't have to repair the road every time, and then people don't get flooded downstream. And that's a perfect basin that we're going to put in a infiltration trench. That's how I call it. So basically dig down another 15, 20 feet and fill it up with gravel and keep it clean, and then it's going to put the water back into the aquifer. So this project, we were very innovative with the funding. It made sense from flood control standpoint, so they funded part of it, and then Public Works stepped up and they funded part of the project because they could justify with the elimination of the road maintenance. So that project, again, it's already in, the basin is in, and then we have to continue with it. The other project is the Rattlesnake Wash east of Kingman. That project popped up when there were talk about an interchange, a new interchange, and then they came to flood control, the designers came to flood control and say, what do they have to do? So we thought about it a lot, and we told them that, hey, instead of building concrete channels for the same amount of money, you can build detention ponds, which can be used as actually recharge ponds. So we're hoping if this project ever goes, then it could be funded by the project itself, because it would be about the same cost, but it would give the benefit of there's a school downstream and other residential areas. We would protect them from flooding with those detention basins, and also we would use the water that goes back to the aquifer. So we looked at different sites. We looked at these A, B, C, D. I don't want to take your time too much. A, B, and C are on BLM land, so those are cheap properties. It would be very easy to construct. Basically, again, just capture a wash. And then private properties are on the other side of the freeway. Those are E and D. And we could capture quite a bit of water. So there's many options there. And we just have conceptual designs and some rough cost estimates for each one of them, whichever will go. And then we will give it to the designer if this project goes. Now, if this project doesn't go, it's still a worthwhile project to consider later on when water becomes very expensive. So again, different configurations of the same rattlesnake wash that comes down from the Wallapai Mountains and carries quite a bit of water. And then also looked at on the west side of Kingman, on the Sorbet Hills, same logic. Water floods streets in the city of Kingman. So if we capture the water, then we could take many of those properties out of the floodplain. Actually, they save on flood insurance, and the city saves on road maintenance because there's that much maintenance. And so looked at several sites, and again, I'm just going to go quick, really fast. This slide just shows the design, pretty much. That's one of the basins. It's a little wash. It's a little valley, comes down. We would dig down the storage area and then make an embankment, capture the water, and put a spillway on the side so it doesn't get washed out when the water gets high enough and it would overtop. And our limitations are that we want to stay beyond the jurisdictional dam size, which would be 50 acres with storage or 25 foot high. So these are small projects, and that way we don't have to go through again the state and do additional permitting. These are, I'm just showing those basins. The two of them are on BLM land. We try to capture BLM because those lands are the most reasonably available, and then a couple of them are on state land or one on private. So it could be used in any combination and would provide flood control benefit and provide recharge. Also looked at the Peacock Mountains, looked at about 7 sites. 4 of them, so far, the property owners agreed. And one of them I'm talking with just called last weekend is one that gives his property. So I showed on the right side the area. What we do basically shows the area that collects the rain, and then we calculate the rainfall and see how much flow would go down on that wash, how much can we capture, and then we can calculate how much water can we reasonably recharge every year. And again, this could be flood control projects. So on these projects, flood control will come to the board. We have 4 of them where we're going to make an agreement for a drainage easement with the property owners, just to give us the property for that purpose. And again, it's very easy to recharge these locations because it's all rocks and cobbles and clean sand and gravel. So all we have to do is the berm, and it will recharge itself. So very reasonable cost. Same thing, we had a meeting with a large property owner east of the airport. If you look at that side, on the left side is the Kingman Airport, and he's got a property on a checkerboard to the east. We looked at about 19 sites, and then we came back with about 6 of them that look really good. So we're going to meet with the property owner, and hopefully he will give us, he told us he would give us the property free, give us a drainage easement, and we could do these projects, so it wouldn't cost anything. It's a very reasonable cost. Kingman High School would be a project that I mentioned would need an injection well. So we could put in a ball field for the Kingman High School and ask for the land from state land for school purposes. It would be a ball field, and put a injection well in the corner of the ball field. So the ball field would be actually the basin a little lower, collecting the water, and then the injection well. But this is an expensive project. It would be like $1 million. It would capture a lot of water, because those of you that live in Kingman or familiar with when it really rains, then Bank Street is a river. And actually, having the high school there, it's pretty difficult. Public Works has to close down Bank Street many times when it rains heavily. So it would solve that problem. Instead of flooding Bank Street, we would capture the water before it hits Bank Street, and then we would put it back into the aquifer. So these are the county projects, and I just wanted to give you a quick update. I would be more than happy to give more detailed information on any one of them. We are thinking about many different ideas, and I just introduced myself to Supervisor Gould, and he asked me about rainwater harvesting, where you can harvest the water out of the rooftops. And that's a good solution. That could provide quite a bit of water for the residential areas, and that could make some incentives for that. I did some calculations, but those are smaller scales. These recharge projects actually provide more water than the rainwater harvesting would be, but it's very worthwhile. So probably next time we're going to show you that how much could be collected through that, and then that's something to think about. So with that, if we still have time, or we can, either way, we can take a break. The City of Kingman would like to show their projects, and they have some very worthwhile projects. They're doing quite a bit. The cooperation is working out very good. They actually plan to recharge their wastewater. That would be about 22% of all Kingman's water use they could get from that. And then they're also doing a small project, Green Hole, which is a park that there's already there, a detention basin there, and then put a corner in a infiltration trench, and then recharge that water. So those are already funded. They built it out. So if you, Madam Chair, would allow us after 10 o'clock, maybe.
Okay, yeah. We have about a minute and a half before we have to do the public auction, and then we'll call up the City of Kingman to make a short presentation about your projects.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm going to throw this to Mike Hendricks. You have a minute and a half to kill before the auction. So hit it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There's some things that I need to read into the record prior to the auction, and so I can probably go ahead and do that right now and save a little bit of time. Just to give a little background, that in accordance with ARS 11-251-9, the board may sell at public auction and convey to the highest bidder on such terms and for such consideration as the board shall prescribe. At your August 4th, 2018 board meeting, the board directed staff to move forward with the auction on parcel 304-802, consisting of 46 acres more or less, and approximately a 1,080 square foot building located at 420 West Highway 66, Kingman, Arizona. Starting minimum bid for the property and the building will be its appraised value of $55,000 plus any escrow fees and other costs associated with the sale of the property, such as the appraisal, title report, advertising expenses, and these are all estimated at $3,450, bringing the total starting minimum bid to $58,450. So at the time of bidding, the bidder must provide confirmation of funds to enable the purchase of the property by bank, letter, or its equivalent. The property being sold is as is, without any warranties expressed or implied as to its condition. Title shall be evidenced by a special warranty deed. The purchase price will be due and payable in full, in cash, by bank, wire transfer, or by cashier's check on the date the sale is closed, which shall be on or before the day that is 10 days from today, unless a later date is agreed to in writing by Mojave County. If the successful bidder requires the transfer of title to the property to be concluded through an escrow, any escrow shall close within 10 days from today, unless a letter is agreeing to a later date in writing by Mojave County. I ask that any persons wishing to bid on the property, when I call, please raise your hand, and I will call on you to come down to the microphone and clearly state your name and address and your amount bid. If a higher bid is received, you will be given the opportunity to make a counter higher offer. This is an auction. If you are deemed to be the highest bidder, you will be asked to meet with our assistant to the county manager of Honor, who's sitting in the back row, immediately following this auction so that arrangements can be made for your purchase. And I think it's time right now. With that said, I open the auction on parcel 304-18049. Do I have any interested bidders? May I see a show of hands? Rod, would you like to, Mr. Owen, would you like to come up and give us your name, address, who you're bidding for, and the amount bid?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm Rob Owen, Public Works Director for the City of Kingman, 310 North 4th Street. Our bid would be $60,000.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other interested bidders in the audience? Are there any other interested bidders in the audience? Okay, I'm going to say going once, going twice. With that, this closes the bid. The parcel 304-18049 is sold to the City of Kingman. Rob Owens representing the City of Kingman for $60,000. And thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So I believe the same gentleman from Kingman would like to come up and do a quick presentation on the projects.
While you're down there, buy that property.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I am Rob Owen, Public Works Director for the City of Kingman. I would like to go through our projects briefly. So this is a list of our projects. We have a reclaimed water recharge project, our Monsoon Park infiltration basin, water line replacement, sewer line extension projects, water meter replacement program, and we have some other efficiency and source water projects, and a very brief discussion about some flood control needs. So our big project is the reclaimed water recharge project out the Hilltop plant. Nick talked about this a little bit. We are currently at 30% design with a construction estimate of $2.1 million. This would recharge about 22% of the water that we withdraw from the aquifer every year. A Monsoon Park infiltration basin. That project has been awarded a construction contract. It is not under construction yet. Through the Arizona Department of Water Resources, we went through a water audit in 2016 to identify some potential efficiencies and ways to address water loss in our system. A big part of that would be meter replacement. We also budget extensively for water line replacement programs. Another aspect of our loss is leakage and breakage. A big project this year is Stockton Hill Road from Airway to Gordon. We also have some smaller projects in the downtown area, and we have several projects, including several in the Birdland and North Kingman area under design that will be under construction next year. We also budget for sewer line extensions. The component of this, as far as the Water Sustainability Committee is, that the more people we have on sewer, that's potentially the more water we can recharge at the plant. So we did do a Mojave Wash sewer line extension last year. We have some other, as new development comes in, we're getting new areas onto sewer. We also have several projects in the design phase that will go to construction next year, including the downtown outfall line, Devlin Wash, Jaggerson, Beale, Burke, Beverly, and Valentine. We are initiating a water meter testing program that'll help us prioritize our meter replacements. Meters both as our source meters at the wells and also our customer meters. Ultimately, we'd like to get to an automated meter reading program or process that would either be with drive-by reads or a fixed-base network to eliminate the needs for meter readers. Some of our water system efficiency projects is main tank number 1 rehab, City Well 11 surge tanks. Surge tanks are important in our system that they eliminate water hammer, which again reduces the amount of leakage in the system. In our source projects, again, we're participating in the USGS model development, and we're looking at a new well, City Well 10, south of the airport. A big part of our water issues are stormwater. The rain event from October 3rd, there were several places around town that had more than 2 inches of rain. It generated a lot of calls from us. In our CIP, we identified $4 million worth of projects in fiscal year 19. We've had some discussions with the council, preliminary discussions regarding another funding source to help us complete some of these stormwater projects. One other thing that we'll look at is adopting Mojave County's Drainage Design Manual. It's a very professional document, so we'd like to incorporate that, adopt that as our design manuals with some local amendments. And some of the bigger picture policy type issues we've been discussing at the committee, again, the reclaimed water priority policy, sewer extension policy, large water user policy, and stormwater retention and recharge. So with that, I can try to answer any questions you might have, or Mr. Hunt.
Thank you. Are there any questions for this gentleman or Mr. Hunt?
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Sir, you mentioned sewer line extension. If you're on a septic tank currently, your septic tank is recharging the aquifer during its normal use. Would the advantage to the sewer line extension be the fact that you can run that water through your sewer plant and sell that water as reclaimed water rather than recharging the aquifer?
No, sir. I think our priority is to recharge. We would do the treatment at the plant and recharge what comes to the plant. So, sure.
If I may just add to that, Supervisor Gold, that it is assumed that the sewers will go back to the aquifer, but most of the cases it's not the case. It's just a fact, engineering standpoint, that out in the area where, in the Butler area, for example, where they want to make these sewer extension projects, probably nothing goes back to the aquifer from the septic tanks, nothing, because that area is a very thick, underlain by a very thick clay layer, at least 200 feet thick, and that would prevent it. So it's assumed it will go back eventually. It goes down what we call a vadose zone, and then its water is there, and then eventually it evaporates, or makes the soil moist for a while, but it doesn't really go back to the aquifer. If they put in the sewer lines, they can ensure that this wastewater goes back, they clean it, It's clean water, and then they recharge it, so then they can capture a certain amount, and so you can count on it, it goes back to the aquifer.
Sure, my experience with sewer systems has been limited to Lake Havasu City, where the taxpayers voted to indebt themselves at $30,000 a household because they were told that their wastewater was polluting the Colorado River, which I think is dubious science anyway.
Yeah, and I have to add that, it really depends on the geological conditions. So if you have sandy soils, then it will go down to the aquifer. I'm talking about specifically in the Kingman area where they want to make the sewer extensions.
Sure, I agree. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Apparently now we have to go back to the public auction. We didn't do something correctly. We need a motion to accept the bid. Is that what I understand?
No, the option was correct. Now, if you wish, you can accept the bid, and then the board, once accepts the bids, then it's complete.
So we need a motion to accept the bid.
Correct.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the bid on one parcel, 304-18049, consisting of 0.46 acres, more or less, and an approximately 1,085 square foot building located at 420 West Highway 66, Kingman, Arizona.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
My mic was off. I did make the motion to approve.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, consent agenda. Items 5 to 34 will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion minus any items pulled for discussion. Anyone want to pull any items? Supervisor Watson.
Nothing to pull this morning, thank you.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Item 9, item 10, item 11, item 12, item 19, item 20, item 25, and item 27.
Okay. Supervisor Bishop. Anything else than those?
Yes, 23, please.
23. Supervisor Johnson. Okay, and I need to take item 7.
None left.
And I think the others have been taken care of, 23, 25, and 27. Okay, so I need a motion to approve consent agenda items 5 through 34 minus 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 19, 20, 23, 25, and 27.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 7, I was asked to take this off by our treasurer, Cindy Cox. Is she here? There she is.
Which item?
7.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I merely wanted to call attention to a couple of things. That item number 7 talks about several different parcels that we foreclosed on because the board asked us to for the tax deed sale. One of the things that we had done with the tax deed sale was we came to you and said we really want to set a minimum bid, the minimum bid being the cost of what it takes to foreclose the property. And the reason why I said that was because, and I'll read you what you approved, it was that all of the things, the procedures were approved by the board. And the procedure says, the board has the authority to set the minimum bid in order to complete a successful tax sale, and the treasurer recommends setting the minimum bid as the actual cost of the tax deed process. And we talked about the reasons why, because many years have gone by, sometimes 10, 20 years, decades, where we haven't gotten that tax money, and any other business would have written off the taxes as bad debt. So we looked at that and said that was the contention. The treasurer recommends setting the minimum bid at the actual cost of the tax deed process determined on a per parcel basis. This will attract the largest number of bidders and should provide the fastest possible means of returning these parcels to the active tax roll, where they will generate positive cash flows and administrative savings for Mojave County. So I wanted to make sure that you knew there was no definitive decision in any of the paperwork that I wrote that you guys approved that said the minimum bid is the cost. I merely said, I recommend to you the minimum bid should be the cost so that we can get competition going. We can get bidding going online. That has worked in the tax lien sale and works today. The lower the price, more people are frenzied to get in, the higher the price of the property. And I wanted to just make sure, because from what I had heard, it was kind of a little bit bastardized in the fact that you believed, I don't know if you did, but what I had heard is that the board believed that the minimum bid was the cost. And it's not. It's whatever the board deems the cost of the property. These properties, I don't have a problem if we need these in the county, then we need them in the county. That's the way it is. But that's up to you and your decision. The issue that I have, just that I wanted to bring that to your attention, and I also wanted to say that the statute, is there a sufficient, important government purpose to warrant removing the property from the tax roll in perpetuity? So you're going to take a $304,000 parcel, at least that's what the fair cash value was, full cash value was in 2018, and sell it for $125.48. I just have a little bit of an issue with that if you deem that to be sufficiently important government purpose for 106 acres. The other ones are 1 and 2 acres, and their cost is, you know, $28,000 and $9,000, and you're paying they're paying $147.14 for 1 acre and $125.46. I just have a really hard time, like, how am I going to explain this to my constituents in terms of the authorities that are losing tax dollars in perpetuity?
Okay.
Because if it went to the tax deed sale, I believe setting the minimum bid at the cost is absolutely the right thing to do, because it will generate, hopefully, competition. But I'm not against whatever the board wants. I just wanted to make sure that you were clear that it's your decision how much money you get for this. And if it's the right thing, if it's a sufficient purpose and the government wants it, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that those things were known.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Cox?
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Treasurer Cox, is this the parcel that we looked at in the Bullhead City area?
Yes.
That was wholly within the wash?
That is what has been said. I don't know because I haven't been there, but yes.
I've got to take the word of my flood control department. The property, we were surprised at the valuation. It was wholly located within one of the major washes that impact Bullhead City. And one of the things that we look at is that flood control looked at in wanting this parcel is what would be required for somebody to develop that area, and if we did allow somebody to develop within that particular floodplain, would they be narrowing it down, reducing the capacity? Would we be looking at this property to make our management of the flood control floodplain easier and possibly do some works up there to protect, anything downstream? So I believe it's like Treasurer Cox said, it's solely a decision by the Board of Supervisors, obviously, but when flood control recommended that we allow them to take the parcel, they looked at the use, they looked at the impact, flood control impact, and that this parcel looked like it would be difficult to actually develop. And, like you've been told a lot of times by my colleague Nick Hunt, anything can be developed with enough money from an engineering perspective, but we thought this might be in the best interest of all of Mojave County to go ahead and allow this transfer. Thank you.
And this property was also owned by a developer. A developer bought this to develop this property.
Wait, can you say that again, please?
The property was originally owned by a developer who was going to subdivide it and build, supposedly. But
how long ago was that property bought?
I don't know. I don't know. I just look at the authorities, and it's disconcerting to me because, a little, like I said, I'm not pro or con. It's your decision. But you have Bullhead Elementary School, Colorado River Union High School, Mojave Community College District, Bullhead City Fire District, Mojave County Library, Pest Abatement District, TV District, Western Arizona Vocation Education District, Bullhead City Fire Bonds, and Colorado City Unified High School District Class B bonds. And I look at all those authorities and I think, what am I going to say to them?
Okay.
That we sold 100 and some odd thousand acres for.
Madam Chairman, she's
Yeah.
going to say the same thing that she said for the last, how many years has this been not paid? the taxes?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you've gotten absolutely no money for it, and
Absolutely.
you know, one of the things that a picture is worth 1,000 words. The picture of this parcel is actually in your backup. If you want, I wonder if we have it available. I would like for the, you know, the board, so that it's fresh in your all's mind, to actually look at the parcel that's being contemplated. And this is the decision on whether to bring this parcel forward to the board was actually batted around considerably, and the group decided to bring it in front of the board to ask for your consideration, allowed to go to flood control.
So it's this brown area, right? Is that correct? Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, I think I'm on the right agenda item, but here it says this property is owned by the state of Arizona.
Because we foreclosed on it for the tax deed process.
Okay.
It was part of the 800 and...
with the way that the agenda
Right.
item is written, if we were actually buying this from a private developer, but apparently we are.
No, we have foreclosed on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure that you knew all the relevant facts and that I was clear about what my position is, because I represent the people and I want to make sure that you know. Thank you.
Treasurer Cox, this parcel is 9 years delinquent. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it, according to what's in my backup, it does appear to be in a sand wash, so maybe that's why the taxes have never been paid, because it's not
Very
developed.
possible. Very
Okay.
possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why was it valued so high then?
Yeah, that's concerning, why the value was
We happen to have our assessor here, so maybe she can shed some light on this.
The developer should have given it to us. Valued at
We did look at that parcel, and there was no appeal on it at all in the history of the parcel, which was interesting. It does have access to, it is 106 acres. It does have access to a boulevard. There is some area, but not a lot. And because of that is the value, 106 acres in Bullhead City. So that's
The
all we,
Laughlin
but it was
Ranch.
never appealed. So, I mean, if we were to go back and assess it now, I don't know what we would get. But it just, the interesting part was the past owner didn't appeal it. So obviously they felt that that property was worth that.
Do you know who the past owner was?
I don't know.
You know, this is in my district, so can we, if it's at the will of the board, can we maybe continue this item for next meeting? And so I could just sort of reach out and maybe get some more information from Bullhead?
We can send an appraiser out there too to see if anything's abnormal. But I did
Right.
look and it didn't seem abnormal on the computer.
And maybe a cost-benefit analysis. I don't know. I'm just, I get a question. That's what I would have done.
Okay, Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Did we try to sell this parcel at auction?
Tax lien?
Yeah, tax lien. And no one bought it?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Because
I mean,
the taxes were, the total due is $275,000. That's how much someone would have to pay for the tax lien.
Huh.
With the parcel, we have to take the whole parcel. We can't just pick and choose
Right.
and say, we're taking 3 acres or whatever. And if there's some buildable part of it, we can always sell that later, so, you know, for a more reasonable amount of money. And once the flood project's done, probably make that land worth more money.
Well, in light of that it had been up for the sale, and there were no bidders, and all that goes with that, and what Supervisor Johnson said, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we've got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
This is to continue.
Okay, now we're on to item number
Oh, approved? Oh, okay.
9. This is to approve a contract for the Arizona Health Zone SNAP-Ed Local Implementation Services. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to make sure that this is fully grant funded and it's not paid for by Mojave County.
Madam Chair, members of the board, yes, it is fully grant funded, and just kind of an update, they are funded through March with the federal shutdown, so we have funding through March.
Yeah, I think there's some issues with that that are now beginning to come to the surface since we've been shut down for so long. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Need a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, based on the extensive knowledge of the applicant and difficulties recruiting qualified public health nurses, approved salary placement for a new employee. Supervisor Bishop? No, that was you. Supervisor Gould.
Yeah, when in doubt, just call my
Yeah, for now.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just thought this was rather strange, and this is I'm a new guy here, so maybe this is how we normally do it, but it seemed rather odd to hire somebody at a step that didn't require board approval, and then to bring it before the board to approve a higher salary. It seems like you would, if that person was eligible for a higher salary, it would come to the board for board approval first.
That would be correct, yes. So we have actually discussed this amongst our management team, that this was kind of the cart before the horse. And so our process moving forward will be that this will not occur in the future, and you will be approached before any recommendation or before any hire, so that you have that opportunity to approve that before it comes to the board, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, and I always thought, stop talking and don't talk you all out of this. I looked into this also, and Health Department, because they need nurses, they wanted to hire this person immediately, so they hired them in at what they could approve, with the understanding that they would try to pursue one step higher, which would take board approval, and that's what actually happened. So, you know, that's,
Okay.
I think we've got that squared away.
We do.
But
yes.
that's the way this one was done. Thank you, Ms.
Any other
Madam Chair.
questions?
Madam Chair, I did
Yes.
too. I had the same questions as Supervisor Gould did, and I haven't seen this before either. And it bothers me that obviously we need the nurse, and I have no problem with what we're paying them. And if we'd have brought them before us, would vote for it. But it does bother me, especially going through HR. I had to sign off on this, how it got to us, where we're hiring somebody and immediately coming back with a step increase. I think it's just wrong.
Certainly.
So it's a process kind of issue.
That is correct.
And that won't happen again.
That is correct. And
Thank
just so you know, normally someone would have to give 2 weeks' notice anyway, so we would have that time frame to work with. In this case, this person wasn't working, so they were available a lot sooner than normal employees, you know, normal candidates would be. So the fast track, like I said, was too fast.
Okay.
So, yes.
I need a motion.
Motion to approve?
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 11, approve and sign amendment number 3 to, about pavement service treatment products to American Pavement Preservation out of Las Vegas. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This, to me, I just wanted to confirm, this is materials that our own county employees use during the normal course of their maintenance work that they do, and not materials that go on to a contractor to be used for projects?
No, these contracts are specific for use by the Public Works Department, and they have been in place for a few years. We're still within the contract ability to extend the contracts, and Public Works has requested that we do those extensions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Need a motion?
I move that agenda item number 11 be adopted.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 12, this is to approve the use of the Arizona statewide cooperative contract for fencing materials for the replacement upgrade of a fencing system at Surbot landfill. Mr. Gould.
Madam Chairman, I just wanted to, since this is over $250,000, I just wanted to get an explanation of what this project was about.
Chairman Angus, Supervisor Gould, this project will fence the Surbot landfill. It'll provide about 3 miles of 6-foot chain link fencing. Currently, we have a 3-strand barbed wire fence around the perimeter. This would improve that. It would fence, and I'll look at Colin just to make sure I'm saying this exactly correctly. Currently, the entire parcel is not currently fenced, so this would enclose that entire parcel and remove that 3-strand barbed wire and provide better security for our landfill.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Walsh, you back up to the part that it already had a 3-strand barbed wire fence.
The landfill out there has a 3-strand barbed wire fence on a portion of it right now. What this would do is remove that 3-strand and then place the chain link fence in its place, a 6-foot chain link fence.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Walsh, is there a requirement that we put a fence around the landfill?
If I may, I'll
Sure.
ask Mr. Patillo, my environmental quality manager, to speak to that.
A couple of reasons.
Yeah, the fencing requirements around the landfill, there are several reasons you want it. One, security. We have had, I can't tell you how many break-ins out there, at least 3 or 4 in the past 10, 15 years. So it aids in security. The other issue is actual vectors and animals getting access to the garbage. That is open range. When I was out there, last time I was out there, the current barbed wire fence does not keep out cattle. They get in there, they like to graze near the open cells. They get into the refuse. Worse than that, they like to go and get in the sewage ponds that we have out there. So there are actually environmental and regulatory issues concerned with that. And so it aids in some of the best practices concerning isolation of the site from the environment.
Madam Chairman, sir, since a 5-strand fence is legal for livestock fencing, wouldn't it be cheaper to add 2 more strands? I guess it's not the entire perimeter anyway.
It's not. It's the original landfill site was 160 acres. That was fenced by someone. I assume it was Mojave County that fenced that when they bought it back in the 80s. It was over 30 years ago. That fence is very incompetent. There's lots of people get out there and cut it, just walk in the landfill. We've had people drive up to it, cut it, drive in the back way, sneak in the landfill in the middle of the night, and steal thousands of gallons of red diesel out of the landfill. Granted, this is not going to be foolproof. It's going to be a lot harder to get through. It'll take a lot more time. But it'll make that area more secure. Plus, we will also be fencing the north 160 acres that the county purchased in the 90s, and that has never been fenced. And the reason that's critical at this stage is we're developing Cell 6, and we're moving the landfill offices to the far north end of the landfill, primarily to aid in full development and use of the county's property out there, which, as it stands right now, can't happen unless we do that.
Madam Chairman, sir, does this money for the fence come from the users of that landfill, or does it come from the county general fund?
It comes from the users of the landfill, sir.
Because I thought it's strange. Lake Havasu has a landfill that's owned by the city of Lake Havasu, but yet we have other landfills that are owned by the county.
We have 2 landfills that are owned by Mojave County. That would be Surbat Landfill and Mojave Valley Landfill. Generally speaking, and of course any county-owned landfill is open to any resident of Mojave County, but generally speaking, Surbat Landfill serves the Kingman area and areas of District 1 and 4. Mojave Valley Landfill serves up and down the Colorado River. I don't know, I don't have a sense of where the cutoff would be that they would want to go into Havasu or not, or even if it's open to county residents, I don't know.
To me, it just furthers the feeling of Lake Havasu city residents that they get very little from the county. It just seems odd.
It
seems like a strange setup to me.
I can't speak to the history or the reasoning of the landfill was developed by the city of Lake Havasu. I don't know why.
Madam Chair?
I do know they.
If I can, Supervisor Gould, we used to own that. Havasu wanted it, so they took that and all the liability that goes along with it, so they took that off our plate.
Yeah, it might, with the liability that comes with the landfill, it might be probably a blessing rather than a curse.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your knowledge.
Okay, any other questions? I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to item 19, approve Mojave County's warrant register for December. Who is that? You two? Mr.? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I was looking at the warrant register, Ms. Lloyd, and the state has a way, the treasurer's office actually puts their checkbook online. So that any Arizonan or actually anybody in the world could take a look and see what the treasurer wrote that check for. I noticed that the warrant register just has names and amounts, and I was wondering, is that other information available, and is it available online?
It is. So we also utilize the Open Books portal to publish Mojave County's register. However, the statute that is affiliated with the Open Books process, we post everything that is above $5,000 on that portal. What we present before you is a slightly different statute, and it advises that you have to have the warrant register, and I believe it's everything that is over $1,000 that we present to you on the board meetings, and or anything that adds up to more than $1,000. So if we had a check for $600 and one for $400, since it met the 1,000 threshold, it would appear here. So those are the two statutes that we do.
So as long as the amount is above is it $1,000 on the warrant register?
Yes.
So it'll show on the warrant register, and then the online it was 5,000 and above.
That's exactly correct.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 20, this is to accept book donations and other library materials. Supervisor Bishop.
No, it was Ron Gold.
Oh, another. I keep looking over here.
Let's
Should be
hoping
leaving
somebody
over
else.
here.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My issue on this was it just has an amount, and it doesn't really give us any detail on what information. I want to know whether that information was available someplace else.
As far as?
What the books were. You know, just a list. It just seems kind of interesting to me that it's just a number on a piece of paper, and we're just supposed to automatically approve a number on a piece of paper.
Well, if that's what the board would like in the future, we're certainly glad to print, the entire report for you.
It might be interesting if we could make that, Madam Chairman, online, so if somebody had some concern on that, they could take a look at it.
These are donations. So I'm just wondering why people would have concerns.
Oh, they would have concerns.
Oh, okay. All right. I get what you're saying. Okay.
But
Is that something we can do?
It's something we can do.
I think, Madam Chair, I think in the past we have put them in, haven't we?
Excuse me?
In the past, we have had the list of,
I don't think, since I've been here, it hasn't been there. It's just been the number, but we certainly can do that.
Okay.
Why have you up there? Does somebody review this, or do we just take whatever somebody offers?
No, staff reviews. We get far more books than this donated.
Okay.
Staff goes through every one. Do we need it, or are our copies of this in bad shape and we're replacing them? Is it something valuable to the collection? Anything that's not, we pass on to the Friends of the Library. They then do their book sales, and then that money's available to us.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay. Need a motion?
That was 20. I move that agenda item 20 be adopted.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On to number 23. I think this is Supervisor Bishop this time.
This one's finally mine.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I pulled this item off the agenda just to call attention and support the future donation from this group. I and of course many others are looking forward to seeing this World War I monument finally return to its original configuration, and as it was when it was dedicated back in 1928 to the Mojave County Courthouse. So I'm just a firm believer in honoring the service and memory of our veterans, and this is certainly going to do that, and just wanted to call attention to it and look forward to that rededication of the ceremony marking the 101st anniversary of the Battle of Belleau Wood.
Great.
Okay, with that, I make a motion to approve.
And I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 23 is carried. 25, this is to approve our Public Works Director, Stephen Latowski, to travel and attend the World Road Congress Technical Engineering Conference in Abu Dhabi, UAE. I'm going to assume this was Chairman Gould, Supervisor Gould
Thank you,
as
Mr.
well.
Chairman. I just pulled this off so that we could have a discussion over this and whether this is appropriate or not.
Okay. Anyone have any comments or questions? Anything else you want to say?
No, I just wanted to see if we open it for discussion. Apparently, there's no discussion.
Yes.
If I could, please. Thank you, Chairman. Steve Latowski has done a remarkable job for Mojave County for a number of years. And I feel it's most appropriate for Mojave County to identify and make sure that everybody in the world, so to speak, knows about Steve Latowski. This award was based off of a road project in my district, and I'm very much appreciative of the entirety of that. Give you a little bit of history on this. We got a categorical exclusion from the Bureau of Land Management in 90 days. They usually take 4 years. So those are the kind of efforts that have gone into this project and other projects. And I feel it's very appropriate for us to distinguish Steve Latowski with this travel so he can attend this professional development and accept the award.
Okay. Anybody else?
Madam Chairman, if I may.
Sure, please.
One of the things I echo that, the sentiments of Supervisor Watson, that Steve Latowski is a very unique individual, and I believe Mojave County is incredibly lucky to have somebody of his education, talent, and experience working for us as Public Works Director. One of the things that hasn't been mentioned, because Steve is such a humble person, is the amount of money that Steve has brought into Mojave County for various projects, just from him representing Mojave County across the nation at different conferences. The last one that he was able to secure for Mojave County was a bridge across the Sacramento down at Topak, and that was over $1 million. I think grand total of the amount of money that these types of ventures have brought into Mojave County is in excess of about $5 million. But we have Mr. Latowski here.
No, I don't think we need that. I'm just going to say that everything said about Mr. Latowski, I agree with. He's a great employee, great asset. But this particular item, I cannot vote yes on. So with that, I'm going to make a motion. Somebody make a motion.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Public Works Director, Steve Latowski, to travel and attend the World Road Congress Technical Engineering Conference in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, on October 6th through 10th, 2019.
Second.
Okay, and I think we'll do a roll call for this, please.
Supervisor Watson?
Why, yes, thank you.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Supervisor Gould?
Madam Chairman, this is not a reflection on the greatness of Mr. Latowski. It's a fact that I don't think we should be spending highway revenue user money on sending somebody on a foreign travel, so I'm going to have to vote no.
And Chairman Angus?
For the same reasons that Supervisor Gould just expressed, I'm voting no. But the motion carries.
And carries.
Okay. Number 27. Approve the agreement between Steward Health Choice Arizona and the Mojave County Sheriff's Office accepting funds for the inmate release coordinator, creating a budget as necessary, creating a position, and allowing the chairman to sign the agreement. Hi.
Good morning.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I just wanted an explanation of what this program was all about.
Well, what the program is this creates a new position inside the jail, an inmate release coordinator. Some agencies are calling them a care coordinator. What they'll do is they will, as much as one position can, screen each new arrestee into the facility to make a determination whether they are substance use inmate, And if they don't already have a linkage to services in the community, then they will assist them with that so that upon release, they can get tied back in or get tied in for the first time with community services. If they are already receiving services or had been, but for some reason had fallen off of receiving those services, and we would help them re-engage those services. Currently, just so far this month, about almost 20% of the new arrestees that are coming in are probably somebody that's going to get some benefit of this release coordinator between substance use and mental illness, and they are co-occurring overwhelming majority of the time. So if you look at this person kind of as a social worker or caseworker, that's really the kind of work that they'll be doing.
Madam Chairman, sir, does the jail do any drug testing on the inmates when they're placed in the county jail?
Generally speaking, no. If the new arrestee reports using, usually it's narcotic drugs, but if they report using extensively substances and or alcohol, there's a detox process. They don't necessarily do any testing to confirm that. Normally their charges and their well-known history pretty much supports what they tell us, and usually they're pretty forthcoming with what their issues are out on the street.
So what this program will do, will test them while they're still incarcerated before they're released?
Actually,
try to get them steered in the right direction to get some help with their drug problem?
Yeah, there won't be any laboratory testing. This is just a communication screening process, so that if somebody identifies them, and some of our classification staff is trying to do that now, and that's where we come up with some of these numbers. And if, as I mentioned, if somebody's in need of those services, we're going to try and get them tied in with those services as they get released. So the overall goal is to reduce the recidivism of these people coming back, or at least the length of time between their return visits.
Sure, with the extensive drug problem that we have in the county, if we don't get these folks off of drugs somehow and get them mainstream to become productive Americans again, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've told Sheriff Schuster this, but I told Sheriff Sheehan this: if it wasn't for drugs and alcohol, the deputies would have a lot less things to do.
Yeah, well, and I would agree with that, but the people in the jail would have a lot less to do as well.
Yeah.
And currently, a lot of the inmates that we have, but for alcohol and drug use, probably would have made different choices and different decisions and wouldn't have ended up where they are now. So
I would agree.
I agree with that.
And this is grant funded?
This is grant funded. It's federal money that starts with SAMHSA and filters its way through Access at the state level down to the local regional behavioral health authority. And thank you to Finance, if they're still here, for helping me with this budget. Although over the years I've worked on a lot of grants, the cycles with these two grants that we have were kind of confusing to me, especially with the fact that there's the opportunity for funds to carry over beyond deadlines. But I'm already working on a budget that will secure, hopefully, this position through September of 2020. So I think that our federal and state partners realize that there's a need for this everywhere, but especially in Mojave County. So,
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, if we can screen and identify these inmates and that are suffering from mental health issues or opiate issues, I think we can reduce recidivism, and so I think this is a step in the right direction. I wish we could do more. So with that,
I need to see something. Oh, you want to say something? Go ahead.
This will be 100% funded by grant?
Yes.
No general fund monies, okay. And then just as long as we're all on the same page, that the grant funding goes away, the position goes away.
Exactly.
All right, I have no problem with it then, thank you.
Okay, and when we were down at CSA last week, we had a presentation by, what was he, the deputy sheriff, or?
The Chief Deputy David Rhodes.
And Yavapai County, and they've been doing this now for a while, all through grant funded, and they have seen the recidivism rate drop considerably. And I want to say this carefully. Okay, this is long overdue. It is greatly needed in our county. I'm thrilled it's happening. It should have happened a long time ago. My only issue is with how the money is distributed and how the county gets reimbursed. The agency that controls that is HCIC, that is now Steward. My experiences with them have not been good. I'm saying this publicly. So what I'm asking you is if at any time you have a problem getting the money that has been promised you through this grant, as I have seen being done all over this county because of HCIC, I want you to immediately come back to the board and let us know.
Okay, that's fair enough, since I'm guaranteeing to you that this is a grant-funded position. It's reimbursable funding, so.
I have seen HCIC with their reimbursable funding. You leave a dot over after, not on your eye, and they won't pay you. It's a huge problem here in Mojave County with all healthcare providers. There's an agency, there's a committee now set up just to deal with this agency that I'm going to now be a part of. Lois Wakamoto started it, and I'll be reporting on it. So although as much as this is needed, my only fear is that you're going to have problem with reimbursement, and I'm just asking that if that happens, if you just get a sniff of it, please come to the board so we can help out.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so I think that's it. We're done with the consent agenda. Any problem? Supervisor Johnson?
No, I'm okay.
You're okay? All right. So now we're on to the public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing. This was brought to us by our recorder. Discussion and possible action to approve the adjustment of existing fees and the new fees of the Recorder's Department fee structure for archive writing and film processing according to Arizona's permanent record standards. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this? Anyone? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion?
Motion approved.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Regular agenda. Item 36, brought to us by our Public Works Director. Discussion and possible action to approve and authorize the chairman to sign on behalf of the Board of Supervisors assignment of a franchise from Perkins Mountain Utilities. This was brought back, continued from our last board meeting. And we do have someone signed up to speak. That would be Wendy Barnett. Please come, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to talk.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm Wendy Barnett. My address is 4544 Highway 95 in Fort Mojave. I am the president of Perkins Mountain Utility and Bermuda Water Company, both located here in Mojave County. And I need my glasses. I'm here, of course, to speak to agenda item 36, which is to transfer Perkins Mountain agenda to Bermuda Water Company. This came about because Bermuda Water was not getting their mail. I think it was at the Public Works Department request that we do this transfer. The hearing was properly noticed and held. Nobody spoke. Perkins Mountain is 2,700 acres in White Hills, but it is also another 6,700 acres in Golden Valley. Sorry. We've never gone through a name change. We're both Perkins Mountain and Bermuda Water Company are affiliates of Utilities, Inc. We contribute to Mojave County $156,000 in property taxes last year. I just approved a purchase order for $57,544 in franchise fees. We employ 9 citizens. We've invested almost $1 million last year in needed water infrastructure and water sustainability here in Mojave County. We are in good standing with ADEC and the ACC. The Arizona Corporation Commission has jurisdiction over our certificate of convenience and necessity. We're in good standing with them. They won't give them to individual developers. We are not an encumbrance. We are not a lien. We are not a mess, as was indicated at the last meeting. We are a utility company who has a franchise agreement for access through your right-of-ways. The creditor has never reached out to me, and I would be glad to have these conversations with him and his concerns. It takes a lot to establish and maintain a certificate of convenience and public necessity. The county staff, I believe it was the deputy attorney, stated at the last meeting the franchise agreement doesn't even impact the creditor. There is no liability to the county, only the potential for additional revenues. It would limit our ability to provide service and perhaps recover the $750,000 we have invested in this certificate of convenience and necessity. All service territories have various creditors and various property owners that are not impacted by a franchise agreement. This agenda item helps the Public Works Department, and it harms no one. It ensures that when development comes, that there will be safe, reliable drinking water and sanitary sewer service by a reputable utility. I hope the board will approve this agenda item. I'm happy to answer any questions. I have Deborah Fields with me, who's been an employee of that company since 1986. She was here at the last meeting, she was here at the hearing, and she's a lot smarter than me.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Bishop?
Thank you. This is mostly in my district, and I see no reason not to approve this. So unless there's further discussion, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, board.
Agenda item number 37, discussion and possible action. Acknowledge and refer to staff to develop a parking agreement with and as requested by Harrison Properties of Phoenix, Arizona for future consideration and approval by the Board of Supervisors for purpose of Harrison Properties constructing, operating, and maintaining a new 76-space parking lot.
Madam Chairman.
Supervisor Watson, if I think this is in his...
Supervisor Gould.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, what happens with property taxes when we're becoming a landlord for a private business for a parking lot?
Who can speak to that?
Well, I can take a stab at it if you don't mind. I'd have to double check, but we'll have to look at the PILT statute, the payment in lieu of taxes statute. No, I'm not PILT. No, it'll be GIPLET. It'll be GIPLET that we'd have to look at to determine whether the GIPLET statute would apply. And I don't know off the top of my head without looking at GIPLET because there's some exceptions to the GIPLET rule. So we'd have to determine whether that would be the case. The one thing I would bring to the board's attention about this, and this is the big concern that I have about it though, is that if this is going to be leased, if the county wishes to lease this property, it will have to go through a public auction. So the person who is contemplating this, the private business is contemplating this, they need to make sure and understand that. And we made that clear with Public Works is that, you know, we can craft any kind of agreement with them, but it's got to be contingent upon that public auction. And if someone else comes in and says, no, we want to take the lease and we want to do it, then they won't be able to lease with us. It'll be the person who gets the highest bid at the public auction.
Madam Chairman, my other question is why are we leasing this rather than selling it? Do we have some future need for this area? Because once we're going into partnerships again with a private business. So if this is unneeded county property, then I would suggest that we sell it and put it on the tax rolls.
Well, first of all, Chairman Watson, do you have something to say about this?
Yes, thank you. This particular piece of property is part of a large piece of property that was valued at one time at a great number of millions of dollars. I'm hesitant to break it up. I'm hesitant to do anything with it, really, until we get from staff some reasonable expectation of what the future of this property can hold. So that's just my position.
This item is just to refer this to staff to come back with the explanation and a recommendation, pretty much. Is that true?
And my recommendation is to look at the entirety of the 24 acres or 25 acres and go from there. I'm hesitant to break up a large portion of property that has been valued at many millions of dollars.
Okay.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Please.
Thank you. Similar on this, this is catty corner, it's not adjacent to.
Catty corner.
So I guess my question, what it sounds like is that the building that's going on doesn't have enough space for their own parking to get it, and I don't know what kind of building it is or what kind of business it's going to be, but now you're putting, if we did something like this, now you're having them cross the street to get over. It doesn't make sense to me either.
Okay, Mike.
Madam Chairman, I believe Supervisor Johnson is correct. We received a request for consideration from a realtor that's representing this particular use, and we're not sure what the exact use is, but it was my understanding that it could be a state organization that's contemplating going into the imaging building, which is across the street from our property, and that they would be looking at extra parking. From a staff perspective, we don't have the authority to make that judgment call on whether this is the best use for county property or not. So we were compelled from a staff perspective to place it on the board agenda. If you're looking for a staff recommendation on whether this is the best use or whether the county no longer has a need for this property, I would say that this property is very valuable. The county certainly has a need for this property in the future, either to sell it or to utilize it. There has been some discussion in the past that with some of the supervisors that the city had some interest in the property for ball fields. There has been some discussion, and the board is holding a certain amount of money currently in consideration for putting a lake on this property. And Supervisor Watson was absolutely correct that this property at one time was almost sold and was valued at, if I recall, north of $5 million, and we recently had it appraised. And if I recall correctly, it was like a $2.1, $2.2 million appraisal on this property. So incredibly valuable. Is this a good use for it? Board's going to have to decide. Staff is not recommending moving forward with this.
Okay. Given that, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call.
Supervisor Watson?
Yes.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Supervisor Gould?
Yes.
Chairman Angus?
Yes. Okay, unanimous vote. Motion to deny. Number 38, sitting as the Board of Directors of the Golden Valley Improvement District Number 1. Discussion, possible action, approve the adoption of Golden Valley Improvement District Number 1 resolution to accept the owner's request for property addition to the Golden Valley Improvement District.
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
This is in my district, the Golden Valley Improvement District, and I think it's a good thing to expand the district when it is close to the boundaries, so we can just make small increment adjustments to the boundaries. So I would make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. From Supervisor Johnson, discussion, possible action, direct staff to bring back to the board within 30 days the annual report submitted by the Mojave County Fairgrounds Association for the past 5 years. This was continued from our last meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe if Nathan can put up a spreadsheet that we put together, and I'm not sure, and there's people here that can explain some of this to us, answer a few questions from the Fair Board. I guess the one thing that, well, in the paperwork that you submitted, I have two financial statements from the year 2016. I'm not sure which one is the right one.
Neither am I.
No, okay. One of, and another thing that's bothering me is you're running at a deficit every year.
That is correct, sir.
And with the one budget you gave today, hopefully I was able to add it up right. We're either, depending on, I'm taking 1 year out of 16 each way, we're either $132,216.55 or $124,697.28 in the hole for these years. I'm wondering how you're still in business.
Well, sir, I am too. My name is Tim Woods. I am the general manager of the fairgrounds. I've been at the job for approximately a year. I came in there to clean up the fairgrounds, and this is what I had to make a budget off of, what I had to do things. They did have a surplus at one time in 2014 that, from what I understand and what I can see there, that is what they spent to stay in business. This year we are going to show a loss, but we now have real numbers to make a real budget out of in order to make the necessary cuts and to improve on revenue with.
Okay.
Supervisor Johnson,
Yes.
I'd kind of like to give a little more information. Actually, when Mr. Woods came to work, there was a great deal of items that still needed to be paid for from the prior administration. So although they're looking at a $31,000 net loss this year, that was actually probably covering expenses from the prior year. Mr. Woods can give us that information. Now, after the election a couple weeks ago, or last week actually, we have a new board that's on the Fairgrounds Commission and working well with Mr. Woods. The accountant here today, Mr. Lynch, is actually a CPA, and he's on the board, and so I'm really believing that we can make some good headway with the Fairgrounds Commission this year, and had Mr. Woods not had to pay previous year's expenses, I believe he would have shown a profit this year. But I just want to give you a little background.
Okay. And Mr. Lynch, is a CPA, he's also the treasurer, and we work real close together trying to get a handle on this situation. But yes, sir, I have seen the same books. In previous life, I ran a cattle ranch for 20 some odd years of over 12,000 acres, and I built the railroad at the airport. I was a regional general manager of 3 railroads, so looking at books and bringing this up has been very, very difficult.
Okay. Admissions, I don't know. Well, I guess I didn't put it up. Huh? From the numbers I had, excuse me, 2015, 113 to 120 to 127, and 17 it was 21,000. Are they losing people showing up? I know that was before your time. I guess that would be.
No, sir. The attendance to the fairs and to the other things we have are actually, last year we showed a little bit of an increase for the full year. It's spending. That's what it all boiled down to, was spending. The spending was completely out of control. And so trying to bring that in control while dealing with the board of directors that I had was very, very difficult, because I heard everything that I tried to cut or anything like that, we've always done it this way. And so that was what I had to deal with. We had many, many things come up and vote trying to cut costs that were, the board said no.
I guess I don't have any other questions. We've got the reports. It's kind of disheartening to me that, you know, we didn't get those reports all those years, and nothing reflecting on you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
And obviously it was just going out the door and going out the door. And I think it's something we need to, you know, take another look at and keep better control of. It is an asset of the counties, and I'm not seeing a lot of money going back into repairs on the buildings or on our asset either. So,
if sir, may I address that?
Sure.
Should be also involved included in that is what we accomplished this year, which was a great deal. We got in there and just started cleaning. My main objective was this last year was to clean up, repair, repurpose, and we did that. We got the rodeo arena up where it's the most improved rodeo arena in the United States according to the PRCA. We've got our other arena up where it's fully almost as good as the main rodeo arena. We repaired 7 out of 11 swamp coolers on the system. We took road millings and paved a great deal, well, not a great deal, but a whole lot of property on the fairgrounds. We've replaced toilets. We've done everything to bring it up to where it goes into a regular maintenance schedule, which of course is cheaper than rebuilding everything. So we've taken equipment, repurposed it. We now have working equipment. We found a welder, a portable welder, Hobart 10,000 watt welder that hasn't been, we found it. It was in high grass, got it running, and now it's running daily out there fixing things. We are really, really working to clean it up. And when you drive in, the old trailer house that was right there at the entrance was oh so attractive. It is gone, and along with the other trailer house is gone. We are cleaning it up. We're making some place for all the people in Mojave County to be proud of.
Thank you.
I'd like to bring up one more item for your knowledge. Kind of interesting. Last year when they did the City of Kingman fire inspection, I think there was a number of findings. And even several years ago, we had our own people go over and do the analysis. The last fire inspection, how many findings did the officer find?
Came up to 35. The first one that I received was 260.
And now they're all repaired, so.
They're doing another inspection the 26th, and we will know right then.
Okay.
Give you some idea of the accomplishments that have happened over the last 12 months.
Very good. Thank you. Is there any action in this? No action?
No, I would just make a motion to accept the financial reports submitted by the Fair Association.
Okay.
And I'll second the motion.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. This was brought by
Madam Chairman,
Oh,
Madam
yes.
Chairman, this is our, he wants to add something for the record. This is our CPA and our treasurer for the Mojave County Fair Association Board.
I'm Don Lynch, live in Kingman, treasurer of the board of the Mojave County Fair Association. I just wanted to point out that the financial statement you got today for 2018 should still be considered preliminary. So I don't think there's any major balance sheet changes coming up. There might be some really minor ones. The profit and loss statement, as it's stated it is, which isn't really, since we're a semi-governmental agency, is horribly organized, and we're working on improving that vastly. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to item 40, discussion possible action, approve the adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2019-10, recognizing that January 27, 2019, as a National Day of Remembrances of American Downwinders, and strongly urging an amendment to the Radiation Exposure Screening and Education Program that provides for the addition of Mojave County as a covered area. Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you. This resolution just calls attention to the date that's been recognized as National Day of Remembrance for the American Downwinders. And in Mojave County, half of Mojave County has never been recognized as a downwinder area based on the RECA Act. And this resolution just reminds our federal legislators that the downwinders are still suffering in Mojave County and in other areas such as Utah and Nevada, and it's just a friendly reminder that we'd like to see some legislation go forward and include all the areas.
Okay.
Motion approved.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Last agenda item 41, discussion possible action, approve setting an online Board of Supervisors tax deed sale through public surplus to begin April 8, 2019, ending April 26, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
To adjourn.
Thank you all very much.